Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I really want to thank all of you for taking time to be with us for this AMA Ask Me Anything. Okay, especially taking a lunch time for these sessions about working in data centers. Let me introduce Joshua Au, who will be moderating this interview session. Mr. Joshua Au, who is also my good friend, he's a head data center IT shared services with A-Star. He holds many functions throughout his career, ranging from data centers, system architect, technical project managers, trainer, and operation managers. Joshua is actually a data center expert who I know him for many years. He's a very passionate guy, and he actually constantly looking at what are the innovative ideas can actually change the landscape of the data center for better efficiency. All right, now, Joshua is also a DC expert. Like what I said, he's always looking for data innovation, and he's also currently involved in delivering a resilient and secure hosting environment for the scientific environment. All right, now, without further ado, I'm going to pass this to Joshua. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuket, for the very, very kind introduction. Too kind, very kind. As I was telling Tuket, we're all amongst friends. I think most of you are SCS members. So in a sense, you are my brother and my sister. We are very privileged to have all of you here. And we just want to introduce our two very esteemed brothers, Fabian, as well as Benson. Now, both of them need no introduction. I'm sure you have already seen their LinkedIn profiles. But just to add on, they're responsible for the operation of their data center. That means, in a colloquial term, they are bao ge liao, unfortunately. Fortunately for their bosses, but unfortunately for them. That means that they're responsible for whatever happens on a day-to-day basis. That means whatever happens at the site, at the ground. They need to know what's happening, how it happens, why it happens. They are the ones that respond when there is a problem. That makes them actually the star. But unfortunately, they will operate behind the scenes. So you never hear them. But if you don't have the human beings in the data center, running the data center, imagine when the data center fails, what does it mean? It means there's no Netflix. It means there's no YouTube. It means there's no WhatsApp. It means every internet service is not there. That is why actually I always say that data centers power the way we live, the way we work, the way we play. And I think some of you are here because you're curious and we want to satisfy your curiosity. For some of you, maybe you have even considered joining our industry, and we hope that we're able to answer some of your burning questions. Now, so without further ado, I'm going to pose a few questions to each of them, just to hear from them. And then we'll give ample time for the audience to ask honest questions. Now, just to set expectation, don't ask a question that is specific to a company. We will not answer you. Don't ask personal questions like, have you eaten, or, because there are so many of you here. We want to respect everyone's time. Please ask relevant questions. If the questions are not appropriate, I think we may not entertain you. But at the same time, if we don't have time to answer some of your questions, I think you can email SCS and we will try to get back to you if we don't have time to answer all the questions. Now, so without further ado, I'll just ask the first question. So first question to both Fabian and Benson. Well, we'll ask Fabian first. How did you get into the industry? Or let's put it this way, because I took a look at your LinkedIn profile. You're doing something else.
Yes.
And you move from A to B. So from A to B is very difficult. And I think for some of us, the PMETs in transition, they're also thinking of moving from A to B. So can you share with us, how did you manage to make that switch?
Sure. Okay. Just to share a little bit background of my career towards my start. Started off my career as a IT client service engineer from an IT distributor company. So my background was towards IT and networking related background. That's where my background. So I started off at an IT distributor company which distributes end user to enterprise products. So basically that serves as the part of the IT infrastructure. So you are looking at like, storages to computing servers. So I deal a little bit on that part during my start of the career. So I supported end user products, typically from routers to storages to not only storages, but even things like mobile equipment. So gradually entering into both networking and enterprise equipment. So during my time of when I was in the distributor, I got interested into managing how to manage the network equipment itself and start investing my time towards IT computing and storage hardware infrastructure. Slowly, I progressively moved from the distributor to OEM company. Some of the companies you may have known, like EMC, which is now renamed as Dell. That's where I actually inherit some of my storage background. So I typically also started off getting more attuned to DC related, because as you know, all these enterprise IT equipment will somehow end up somewhere. So I'm very curious in that aspect. So I realized, hey, I'm exposed to what DC is all about. So in my later part of the career, I actually entered into the data center industry, providing storage solutions and trainings towards enterprise storages. And then I continuously also look at the networking portion, where how I was my curiosity also ends up, how you join two things from one point to another, and ensure that at all time you must maintain connectivity at all times, and of course the service level that is really important for clients itself. So that's where I continue to pursue in that area. So from there, I actually look into how does this infrastructure will support in a data center environment. And then with that, I soon joined Keppel as part of their business development to look at businesses from co-location services and building capabilities, adding the value-added services and portfolio towards IT optimization, network-related and technology projects regarding to sustainability for our clients. So this is a little bit background on my side, just to share with you. Yeah.
Two thoughts come to mind. One is there are some skill sets which are easily transferable to move from A to B. Yes. And another, I think your path was a little easier because of your networking. Not networking equipment, but networking of the ecosystem. Yes. Because in a sense, you're already working with customers of data centers, you're working with partners of data centers, it makes it a lot easier for you.
Yes, the transition was straightforward, more straightforward, because I'm already meeting them and trying to understand their requirements and helping them to solve problems. Okay. So it's not like you said, A to Z, but transition, but something I really continuously to engage. Yeah.
In your case, instead of moving from A to B, you actually at B minus to B. You're already half a step there already. It makes it a lot easier. But we'll hold that thought. If you have time to talk about it.
Sure.
Benson, if you could share, how did you join this industry?
I spent almost most of my career life in semiconductors. I know nothing about data centers. I think data center is something that it's given an opportunity, and also you meet someone that your mentor, which is very important, of bringing you into a world of data centers. So from semiconductors, I spent almost 16 to 18 years there, running a couple of fabs, fabrications buildings, and I moved on to something interesting, which is the national broadcasting. So when I'm there, it's become a more a national service kind of mission critical events. So we held lots of all those mission critical events that cannot fail. So from there on, because of that exposure to all those mission criticals, which is also very similar to data centers, you can't allow it to fail, not even in minute seconds. So happens to meet this mentor of mine that brought me into data center world. So I've been managing a couple of data centers. Interesting aspect of this is that it is more than what you see. I mean, from outside, it's just like a warehouse. If it don't tell you, you don't even know. But the only telltale sign that you can see is that a lot of generators. So these are the telltale signs that most people will say, oh, this is a data center because lots of generators. And then because of lots of generators, a lot of exhaust fume, and then, you know, and Singapore is getting more and more congested. And then now we need to do PR with all those residents around us. So if I really encourage you guys to look into this, because this COVID really open eyes to a lot of business approach, especially dependence of like what Tuket mentioned, is that business continuity. So in the early stage of COVID, I tell you, you need to manage it with minimum resources and really play them hard that nothing goes wrong, because your backup services, your parts availabilities. I think this is interesting, but I wouldn't say that this industry is for those weak heart lah. You got to be a very strong heart, and you got a stamina to ride through this. And digitalization is something that we are looking beyond the next lap of DC industry. Yeah.
Okay. I think when I hear what Benson just shared, it corresponds with my own experience. I used to be a Sun OS administrator. I deal with operating system, I do systems engineering, I do backup. And one day I decided that I want to pivot. In Chinese, I say 转型. So I approached my then boss. I said, I would like to beg for the job. I know I'm not qualified. I don't have the skill sets. I don't have electrical, mechanical background, but I want the job. I'll be willing to do anything. I literally begged for the job. And because I begged for the job, he gave me the job. So I think maybe to the audience, just to explain, because our industry is relatively new and relatively unknown. So most of us, we kind of stumbled into the industry. No one goes to school thinking, I'm going to learn this and then I'm going to join a data center. I think almost no one in Singapore has ever done that. But some of us, very luckily, found an industry that we're in love with. We love what we do. And even though there are many challenges, I wouldn't even say it's suitable for everybody. But those who suit it, they will find themselves in love with what they do. And I'm going to ask the next question, but I'll pose it to Benson first. So can you tell me what a typical day at your job is like? How do you spend your day? You go for meetings? Do you have to spend time at the server room? Do you need to bring your customers along? Do you need to follow your staff to do maintenance of gensets? What is a day at work like? Maybe let's hear from you first.
Well, a great different pre and post. It's a pre-COVID, typically the morning cadence. So typical for us is that we got 5 data centers spread across the whole of Singapore. So morning cadence is the time where I get to know all the happenings and all the activities across all data centers. So this is easily another 2 hours gone. So then you will move on to whether there's multiple channels that you will be engaging in, whether be it a preparing for a new build, whether preparing for a retrofit, whether preparing for a customer feed out for certain PVs, or customer move out reinstatement. So all these are activities that you will fill your days lah. But the thing is that pre-COVID is good because you move places to places. You have a breathing time. You got time to eat. You got time to go toilet. But post-COVID is that now everything is so tight. Every meeting they schedule back to back, you got no chance to go toilet at all. And this is something bad about COVID lah. It really stressed us. But then if you look at it, it's highly effective, because I was trying to compare my calendar now and I color code it, and I compare the calendar maybe 9 months ago. You can see the drastic difference, all filled up. There's no space for you to breathe at all. And it's like you're now trying to manage. I mean, my current role is that I need to manage so many data centers, but without a team of capable guys that is able to strive for you and drive for you, there's no way that you can manage so many things at one go. I think full support from vendors, full support from staff, and also the understanding of customer, which is the most unlikely one. But this is something that we need in order to continue to keep our passion going. Yeah.
Okay. Fabian, maybe you can share, is your experience, your day-to-day different from Benson's?
Yes, mine is slightly different. I don't actually now need to go to the data centers as previous. So I used to be based in a data center. And currently, I actually have moved into the so-called the head office. So I'm based there. So like what Benson has mentioned, changes pre and post at this point. As of now, most of us are already on shift teams, different shift teams. I would say team A, team B counts. So when I have to be at data center at the point of time, some of my colleagues cannot be there. So that sets a bit of inefficiency. Let's say I want to organize meetings, end up, this is going to be DC related. He or she will be in another zone, while I myself will be at the data center. So when we need to work at specifically on one task, say for instance, how to resolve this rack moving issue. Yeah, we have to somehow swap times, time zones, meaning I come in at 9 to 10, then after that you take over at 10 to 11, they're kind of task orientated. So it sets a bit difficult in that sense. So, but again, as of this time, where we are, I'm also now moved into more to the business development and project management role. So typically I do more related towards project, towards sustainability. So now I'll typically, most of my days, instead of the data centers, now I'm more orientated, working, like what Benson said, your slots are back-to-back filled. You typically, your lunchtime, sometimes not even half an hour, sometimes even 50 minutes. You got to join. The expectation of joining another meeting is there. They expect you to be punctual somehow. So sometimes you have to apologize because the meeting's overrun and it's not something that we could typically manage as efficient as before, and it might not be to a client's expectations, because they expect you to be prompt, since you set an appointment, but did not know what is prior to your before your meeting or whatsoever, and the task that you need to do. So that sets upon some of the challenges that I would say. But I would say that typically this certainly the COVID really opened eyes for a lot of changes towards how we deal from a day-to-day aspect. Yeah.
Question. Because you're spending less time at the data center, you're now moving more on the business development, the project management, where it's not, you're not delivering yesterday, you're not delivering tonight. You have a planned period to do so. So from your point of view, do you think you have work-life balance?
Well, I think previously used to have, but now it has changed. So there's no, I would say there's no day or night, but it's really a lot of discipline you have to instill on yourself to make sure you have that work-life balance. Nobody's going to look at you or look over you, but it's rather on oneself to make sure that you continue to be able to do your job efficiently. Yeah.
Okay. I think between Fabian, Benson, and myself, we have many mutual friends who I know have no work-life balance. No, because we love our job too much. Sometimes we love the job too much that we don't want to go home. But let's hear from Benson. Do you and your staff, do your staff have work-life balance?
Okay, this is interesting.
That's why I'm sure.
Okay, I wouldn't say that we don't have work-life balance, but I always believe in a culture of uh, moving on from a stage to another stage lah. So I might not be in I mean we might not be in this company, but we might go to the other company of the same. But it's just that while we are still here, the succession plan have to be there. So what we did is that we always have a so-called similar to data centers, your resiliency in terms of if you were, I mean, if you don't have a succession, you can't go on leave. So that is the reason why is that our team are formed into a way that every team A is backing up B, backing up C kind of thing. So that at any one time, if the baton were to pass, someone will hold the baton. The baton can never drop. So that is exactly how the operation, and also because of the nature of our data center, it becomes a resiliency kind of operating model that we are adopting now. So work-life balance is that always fall back to individual again. It's just that we need to plan in advance. We need to have that mindset of giving away what you are holding on. Then you can have attain the work-life balance. If not, you clinging on to what you have and not letting you go, you make yourself redundant. Yeah.
Okay. Again, because we're all amongst friends, that's why we can be very honest with each other. I think everyone in this call, all friends, brothers, sisters. And I'm going to pose the next question, because the challenge is that data centers are mission critical. You can be hospital, you can be SCDF, you can be a government ministry, you can be a bank. Your line of business is not IT, but without the IT, you cannot operate. That is why data centers tend to operate on the basis of paranoia, because we need to be a bit more kiasu. We need to give confidence to our end user so that they can do the job that they need to do. That's why we need to do a lot of extra things. But having said so, I think for this to be sustainable, it means it's not burst of fire today, I do this, but I need to do this 6 months later, 6 years later. And to do that, I think the team needs to be well planned so that no one is a single point of failure. So everyone has resting space, they have breathing space to do so. It has to be planned, it has to be deliberate. Now, moving on to the next question, and so that people understand, what is the org chart for a data center like? So at the top of my head, I'm thinking out loud, there's of course senior management, there's of course audit, there's of course finance, HR, but specific to the data center, sometimes you have IT, you have facilities, you have security, you have and even an audit function that does your ISO 27000, your OSPA. For that, I'm sure Toolkit is the seafood here, he's an expert. But high level, what are some of the roles? So people understand it's not just the backup tape operator, it's not just the FM. There are actually maybe 20, 30 roles. But can you think of what are some of the more visible roles, so that some of us in the audience, they're thinking, if I want to join, I don't want to be to be one of these 30 roles or 20 roles. What are some of the possible roles I can plan to, move my career toward? Let's hear from Fabian first.
So typically, like you have already highlighted some of the basic ones, from senior management to down to the right onto the end, the DC operator. So in between, there's many different domains and knowledge that you need to inherit. So of course, from the management level, you come down to the operation side of things. So there's DC operation side. And then there's of course the HQ side of things, where you deal with all the accounts and all those HR perspective and so forth. So let me just go into the DC perspective. So DC perspective, a few breakdowns. First of all, you need of course the day-to-day DC operators. So the DC operators itself split into several different layers. So of course you have the DC operator, then of course the DC team lead for managing the different time shifts. And subsequently, from the team leads, you go to the the DC managers that looks after either one or two or more DCs, depending. Then subsequently, you go up to the next tier, which is of course the management level that looks the entire portfolio of the 5 DCs or so forth. Then you go into the senior management level, which is of course the COO and so forth. So typically that's the operational side of things. But operational side of things not just deal with data center operations, but there's also the IT part that you need to deal with. Not only the IT, the infrastructure management piece, and as well as the network connectivity part. So in terms of that builds up the entire DC operations. So set aside all those more non-technical roles, which is of course the audit people, the safety, the compliance folks that needs to deal with the day-to-day, not only just the compliance part of things, but as well as we need to manage clients. So that sets upon the service level agreements and contracts and so forth. That's the non-technical. And then of course you have the commercial side of things, which is coming on where our sales managers and the rest of sales executives that need to deal with day-to-day operations in terms of dealing with clients. So that is subset. So on top of that, these are the three main, I would say, three main verticals in terms of each the domain, okay, that you can, other than the HQ side of things. Yeah. So I just give you a brief breakdown on that part, just to give you some context there.
Sure. I suspect Fabian covered 99% of what needs to be said. But Benson, any other particular roles that maybe Fabian did not mention that you want to add on?
Okay, so for I will focus more on the operation portion other than the commercials and so operations portion is where I think most people will be interested in joining into a data center. So if you are more towards the more on the M&E or IT. Now we notice a shift of a knowledge base from a IT perspective towards a M&E perspective because of the infrastructure resiliencies. So in the past, usually we will have a DCFM, facility management, and we will have a DC operations ops. So for our current configuration, that we are going to merge this together because it makes no sense to have a ops team who don't know anything about your power distribution, which we are now trying to also educate the customer, which I think most customers also start to understand and aware that the power distribution versus the aircon supply and also their resiliencies involved. So this is part of the operation. And within that operation team, we do have a customer engagement. Now that for data center is very important because we need to understand the needs of customer before we can push out any like maintenance regime or a shutdown servicing regime. Because if today I tell my customer I'm going to shut down one of my DCs for maintenance, I think everyone scream because today is 9/9. E-commerce is now booming. Everyone is trying to go online and buy things. And I say I'm going to shut down and half of their racks will lose power. I think they will scream. They will escalate all the way. So this is one unexpected. So for the whole operation, why is like a football team. The strikers for me is like those people who is doing the feed up, those people who is doing a new DC design, those people who is doing a construction. So these are my strikers that is going in front. But whatever it is, end of the day, they will have to hand over to my operation team and my maintenance team. So this operation and maintenance team is like my midfield who take over that system, and then they will know what to maintain and then how to maintain, and then across my data centers. I cannot afford to have every new data center built differently from the rest, and then start to have so many inventory items, all this asset redeployment also. So those old ODCs that I'm going to tear down, how can I redeploy some of the useful asset to another site for a better extension of their life? So these are a whole coordination between the feed, the strikers and the midfield. And then by falling back to operation defenders, these are my governance. So my governance form the backbone of this defense to ensure that everything is according to the required SOPs, the required framework, the finance will be there, the audits requirements, so that the onset of design for a new DCs will have all these things in place. So the reason why we are here again is that we are not talking about now, we are talking about future. So whatever that we gone through, whatever incident we face now is actually preparing for the future. So that is how the formation of this operation in my organization right now. Yeah.
Okay. I will ask two very quick questions. And to preface that, myself, no mechanical background, no electrical background. I have a team of 5 persons, no mechanical background, no electrical background. So, Fabian, do you have
Yes.
mechanical, electrical background?
I started off doing engineering, electronics.
So at least
So
you have
some, but towards the mechanical side, I do not have the exposure towards that. Yeah.
Okay. Benson, are you mechanically or electrically trained?
I'm an electrically trained.
Electrically trained, okay, unfair question. So I think you're the best person to answer this. Let's assume someone in the audience, no mechanical background, no electrical background, but he says, I really want to join this industry. It sounds very fun. It sounds very important. It sounds like I can do a lot of good work. Is it possible for someone who has no mechanical, no electrical background, willing to learn, but currently doesn't have? Can he apply for a job? And if so, what kind of jobs can he apply for?
Okay, we do. It's just like my so-called earlier days of having the DC Ops team, who now who now merge together with the DCFM to form this operation team. Now they do not have any mechanical or electrical team, but they do have the IT skill set about the patches, the resolving of the IT's node, all that. All right, but they do not have the M&E skill set. But to join, like I say again earlier, to join a data centers, you're not purely on your operators, but you also fall back on your management agent. You fall back on your supporting vendors and also the equipment suppliers. Now, once we get to join this team, internal training, external training, we have a training regime that is put in place. Now, internal training is that train the trainers, the internal expertise within the data centers. Now, I keep saying that who knows a data center better than yourself, because you're operating a data centers. So data centers, my strikers are those people who are technically trained. My maintenance guys are the one that is very skillful in terms of system knowledge. So they are the one who train my ops team. This is the first layer, so that they understand the fundamentals of all these things. And we do fall back on all those equipment suppliers who came on board to do those maintenance. They are my second tier external trainers. And besides that, we will send them also for their the DCDP kind of thing. But those are very fundamental touch on. But we wanted people to know about what you're driving. If you're driving a car, you need to know where are the pedals, or that, where to refuel, what are the tire pressures, or that, how to telltale sign. So this one are something that's closer to them and easier accessible. So I will not stop anybody. I mean, you might not have an advantage lah. Trust me, you don't have an advantage. But what we are looking for is not somebody with a PhD in electrical or PhD in mechanical to join us. We wanted somebody. I mean, I've interviewed several candidates who wanted to join us. Is the attitude and the passion towards what they want to learn and what they acquire. Even my MAs don't have MAE skill, but it's through daily events, through something trip, and through our questionings and our answer, our sharing with them based on what we have gone through, they are able to learn, and their learning curve is so steep. And I'm impressed that some of these people can do so well even without M&E background. And Joshua, even though you don't have, but over the past few years, I tell you, your learning curve is so steep. You can just go out and be. I mean, nobody will know that you do not have such fundamental skills. Yeah.
So I think what Benson has brought up is that if you have it's good to have. Definitely it's an advantage, but it's not a must-have because if you look at the org chart, you have specialists, you have generalists, and you have people whose job is just to get the job done. There's more than one way to get the job done. Sometimes it's through your people skills, sometimes it's through your planning, your project management skills. So
Joshua, sorry for interruption. I think there are a lot of questions being raised in the chat box.
then maybe we jump straight.
Maybe we look at the chat box so that we can actually help to answer those questions because I think time may be running out.
Okay.
Maybe let me go to the chat box. Okay. So I think we have a question here from TG. Let me read it out so that Joshua, you can see who can answer that. The question is, do you think it is easier to move into the data center world with a hardware background or software background, or are both backgrounds equally useful?
Okay, maybe I take this one. Then we can Robin Chain. I don't know.
Okay.
My answer to you is it depends. It depends because every data center is different. Some data centers, they hire an IT team, a facilities team. Some data centers like to have an IT and facilities team. The operation person need to do a bit of IT, a bit of hardware, a bit of software. So there is no one size fits all. You ask the operator, he'll give you one answer. You ask operator 2, he'll give you a different answer. Of course, I know, I will tell you the devil's in the details. So we are mindful of the time. Of course, if everyone says, oh, I really love this a lot, you must do round 2 for me. Okay, I don't know. Let's try to answer the really burning questions. Tuket, maybe we have the next question.
Okay, so Joshua, next question here. What are the certificates required to join data centers? Which one is endorsed by SCS or SIPTRAC?
Yeah, I take this question. After that, I don't take any more questions already. It's very awkward for the two of them to answer. I'm not an SCS member. I'm going to join after today. Okay, I'm going to join. Now, to my understanding, SCS currently has no endorsement, to my understanding. If you go to Hantran, if you go to IMDA, GovTech, they also do not endorse. Currently don't have. But you look at CTRAP, don't quote me, friends, brothers, sisters, don't quote me. You know that out there in the market, you have CNET, you have IDCA, you have DCD, you have EPI. Okay? And there's a particular professor that has a few useful courses as well. You will know that EPI has CTRAP endorsement, DCD has CTRAP endorsement. I'm not aware IDCA has it. I'm not aware CNET has it. So these two they have. Now, having CTRAP endorsement simply means it's easier for you to claim back the money. But it doesn't mean just because you take a course, you are ready. Just because you go and take a cooking course doesn't mean you are now a good chef. Some things, but it's good to take a course because now you understand the fundamentals. But a lot of the learning is up to you. It's because it's a very steep learning curve. Most of the things I learn on the job. 90% of what I learn on the job. I learn by begging people to explain to me. Okay, but of course, I know I will say the devil's in the details. But I don't want to monopolize the questions. Tuket, maybe you ask the next question and then we'll route either to Benson or Fabian.
Yes, I think there are about 10 questions. So I'm going to throw out some questions and see how I'm going to moderate them now. I have a question here from David. How do you see the new BCA data center green mark efficiency standards impacting the data center industry here, especially as they are inevitably moved from best practices to statutory requirements?
David, you're also a friend, by the way. I've not met you for 2 years, but we are friends. So I think you're asking from a personal point of view. So maybe, Fabian, you share your personal point of view. Because you can't speak for anything else.
Okay, so personal opinion, I think it does have a certain level of impact. Because at the end, right, we still are under the scheme of things that we need to uphold within our corporation, for at least for the DC perspective, in terms of maintaining a certainty of, and in order to fit this certification, I wouldn't deem it as mandatory, but it's good to have. So we typically will have to follow accordingly to the regulations onto, and try to, as much as possible, to hit the KPIs for it. So in terms of best practice, right, certain regulations may be a bit sensitive where we find that, hey, you know, you got to spend so much amount of capex just to fit out and to meet this requirement, which may not be economical wise. So to keep this answer short, I think we need to weigh down the so-called the factors to see whether it's really effectively helpful for the organization. Otherwise, we don't see the, you know, especially for old data center builds more than 5 or 10 years, that, you know, no matter how hard you try, you can't just change to a simple green mark platinum. So that's why I personally I feel that we do need to weigh down our cost wise to see what is the best fit for the organization. Yeah.
I think it's not an easy question.
Yeah.
Imagine you build a house and then the seafood says, you know what, maybe your toilet shouldn't face the east, should face the west, but you built the house. Is it possible? Yes. But how to do it? The devil's in the detail. Of course, I think you're probably familiar with Chris Day, with Tracy, with Mr. Lim. So I think our good friends from BCA, of course, I mean, they spend a lot of time thinking through this. So I leave it to you to talk to them. They'll probably tell you what are the thinking process behind some of these things. Tuket, maybe you can give us the next question.
I got one question here from Tan Kwan Ping. I think he want to hear the view from Fabian and Benson. So Fabian, Benson, listen to this question. I'm currently taking a specialist, I think course in data center conducted by NTU in collaboration with Facebook's and CBRE. So he said he already spoken to Joseph on this, but he want to hear the views from Fabian and Benson.
So let me take this first. Any courses that has been so-called driven by industry, I would say Facebook is also one of the industry player, and CBRE one of the companies that is actually driving that. So personally, I think that this is something that is worthwhile to establish as a basic, I would say, benchmark in terms of latest DC knowledge or trend or technologies that's out in the market. So this is maybe a stepping stone that it will be viable for those who wants to be in this industry or even go into this industry. So at least, you know, with this, we are seeing a lot of educational or syllabus that is attuning to the DC industry, which is very favorable. So I would say that I would say this would certainly help anybody who is interested to want to join this industry. Yeah, and these are the platforms that you can actually leverage on. Okay.
Yeah, like what Fabian mentioned is that I don't think we have a lot of programs out there that leads you to data centers, but that doesn't mean that all the things that you learn from school are applicable when you join a data centers. So there's always a learning and a growth going on. So, but at least that those programs allow you to have a preliminary understanding of how it functions. And when you join them, I would expect that the DC operators are always ready to grow both ways. Because if you join the industry, we also wanted people who join the industry to succeed over time. So this is a mutual way. You are helping a company to grow their business, and the company is helping you to grow your career. So I think this is a long journey. It's not that you attend certain programs and immediately pop your specialist in data centers. No, it's always evolving, because we don't even know what is the next data center is going to be and what type of platform is going to be. And this COVID actually proved to us that a lot of things is all beyond your thinking, beyond your imagination. Is that how prepared and how resilient you are when such occasion were to occur. Yeah.
Joshua, there's a few more questions. I will need your advice also whether you want me to go through all the questions or you're gonna stop
I
halfway.
think, so just to be sure, how many more minutes do we have? I think
Evelyn, how much more time do we have?
We can allow another half an hour if need be.
Okay, then
Okay.
can I suggest this? In the interest of time, we will wrap up in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Those who have burning question, you can write into Evelyn. Evelyn will try her best to answer some of them. We'll try our best, maybe through email. But let's answer the most interesting few questions in maybe the next 10 minutes or so. The most interesting few. You get maybe when you scan through anything that looks like something that everybody else will want to ask as well.
Okay, maybe I let me just from here I choose two more questions. I think there's this question from Benson. Benson, given you have a semiconductor background, what particular attributes, skills, attitude, or qualification do you think allow you to move into the DC world?
When I joined the data center, I thought that data center is so much easier because you got less parameter to monitor. Because for a semiconductor, you have so many parameters as a facility guys. You need to juggle the pressure, you need to juggle the exhaust, and out of the exhaust, you got so many type of exhaust. And then when it comes to water, there's so many type of water involved also. So there are lots of parameters to. But then as I go into a data centers, I found that wow, data center is lucky worse. Because you don't just do, I mean, for our case is that we don't deal with, we are dealing with hyperscaler, we are dealing with enterprise customers, and all their requirements are different. Their ramping style also different, and the and customer is directly monitoring your some of the informations that they want to pipe back to their HQ, and with the cyber securities and all these data analytics that we are going in now, to better understanding how the pattern of consumptions and the pattern of usage. So this is also very critical that even the government now is looking at such things, because as more data center starts to come in, there are high energy capacity usage, and you might not be able to actually capitalize on how they are being ramped. In the past, it might take 5 to 10 years to slowly ramp from 0 to maybe a 25 megawatt. But now it could be within a year or two, it ramp up. So it's so dynamic that the whole data center industry is changing so fast. Now, from a semicon to a data center is of similar is that any failures or any disruption to a semicon, you're talking about millions of dollars. Because of production downtime, you're talking about WIP, you're talking about delays on customers' requirements. But for data center, it's worse because you're talking about banks, you're talking about transaction. If one of my PV is down and that customer is maybe managing all your electronic transaction, and imagine you go to a cash online, you can't draw money. That will create a unnecessary a panic, not just to your own business, but to the whole nation. I do encounter that once one of the network was down, and then everyone can't draw money from ATM, and the first thing that strike fear in them is that, hey, is it that Singapore, this bank is going to close down, that's why I cannot draw money? I think this is something more is detrimental. Is beyond your business already. It's not just that, hey, because I'm data center, fail lah. What's the problem? But that ripple effect that goes down the whole industry is going to be very big when it comes to data center. And semiconductor is only limit to your business lah. If you fail, yeah, customer will scold, will jump, and you got to pay penalties or that. But for our data center, it's different. It's a whole chain of event that is taking part. And as for requirement, I'm not. That's why you notice that we are not focusing on more on paper worth of requirement, but that attitude and your wanting to look at a mission critical, and you want to go into something a life that there's no peace lah. So if you got a strong heart and you're willing to go into a life that is no peace and you're ready to spring into action anytime the thing trigger, I think this is like a fireman kind of mindset already. So that type of mindset is something that we look upon to have somebody who have such a mindset to be in this industry and is willing to learn. Yeah.
Okay, maybe Joshua, we take one more question from here. And for those who have actually raised the question in the chat box, if we do not have time, we'll probably take note of the questions and I'll pass back to Joshua and the two guests to come with an answer. Then I'll get Evelyn to reply to you.
Yeah.
So now one more last question from the chat box over here. I think is very related as we talk about the work-life balance and resiliencies. So this is a question from TG. How do skill sets vary between data center managers and their subordinates? Do such managers need to be superhumans, able to do all the work of the subordinates?
Okay, can I take that? And I think all three of us will answer that.
Yeah, after that, then Joshua, you'll continue with the interviews.
Any questions we don't answer, let Evelyn know. We will try to get back to you. Okay, TG, my friend, you're an asshole. Thank you. But can I put forth to you that yes, you need to know all things. So imagine if I have a child, I put my child at a childcare center. Will I expect the childcare center to know all things? Yes. Is it unfair? Yes. But I will still insist because as a parent, it's my right to ask for the impossible. In the same way, my customers, maybe my customer might be a scientist trying to find cure for COVID-19. Maybe Fabian's customer may be maybe a bank, maybe a government agency, maybe doing something very important to either the economy or the country. Do they expect impossible things? Yes. But you know what? We are people who do impossible things. It is what it is. Because the bar is raised that high. How is it possible? We try our very best. I think what customers want to see is you have to try, you have to have the right attitude. That is why you notice in especially in places like in China, in US, it's very common for ex-soldiers to be hired because ex-soldiers always do impossible things. It's impossible because you think it's impossible. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. It's just very difficult. It's just very painful. Before they broke the 4-minute mile, they said it's impossible. They said if you try, you will die. And then someone did it. Once they proved that it was possible, everyone else said, hey, since he can do it, I can do it. So let's just do it. It's very painful, but it's worth the price. So that's my very unlearned answer. I'll let Fabian and Benson answer their perspective, and then Phuket will do the wrap up. Fabian, please.
Okay. So in my opinion, I think whether DC operators have to be superhuman or not, I think I would say it matters all in the attitude. I wouldn't say that all the DC managers would have the top-notch kind of skill sets or even in terms of knowledge and also at the end, right, we have to be very practical and logical about this because at the end, what are the supporting, most importantly, our supporting equipment, M&E that supports the entire data center. These are eventually run by or supported by our IT equipment vendors. So I would say that, instead of pinpointing on solely just the DC manager itself, we do have to take a certain amount of risk, right? When we purchase an expensive M&E equipment, there's supposed to be a service level that is required by the vendor also to support our operations. And also, we can't just depend on just the vendor. We ourselves should be equipped with certain amount of knowledge how to operate our data center, like what Benson mentioned. Nobody knows as well as you do on your data center. So we do need to see how we attune and make sure that we can service our clients effectively. And not only that, it's but 24/7. So we do need to have certain strategy, especially in this current situation, right? We are now already not really short of manpower, say, but because of the how we are, the measures that's been in place, the challenges, we now have to think even more. We have to build in more strategies to address all these challenges. So I would say that, in short, I would say that we need to know how to build upon these strategies and work towards still able to service our clients effectively during this time and moment. So superhuman, I would say that yes and no, because ultimately it's passing on the risk to somebody who could manage and support our business. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. My view is two things. Number one, data center industrial, we won by putting the design in place. We don't win by managing it very well. Because if your resiliency is not there, no matter how good a superhuman there, it will fail. So we won by design. So whatever that we have gone through, all the incident they have gone through, all this corrective action, all this root cause analysis are the fundamental of our winning next time. So it's always built on our failures to have a better strength. So that is how a data center industry works. And as the second point is that the operation, I remember this quote: talent wins game, teamwork wins championship. So it is not just one superhuman. There are a battalion of superhuman behind that superhuman. So that when you call for help and when you ask for help, the whole battalion will be there. And that battalion will not be dispersed one shot. Because why? Because after the war, somebody have to jaga the place. So it is always a very regimental regime that I will not allow every data to shut down at the same time, because why? The next day nobody work already. Or puncheck. So this is a very interesting line where we don't depend on one superhuman, but we are looking at what is that called? The league, you know, the Superman, you know, the what superhero league, right? Yeah. So it's a combination between design and teamwork. Yeah.
Okay. I think we've tried our very best to answer most of the questions. Some of the questions we'll take it offline. We'll try our very best to answer you. Maybe to get, if you would like to say some closing words, and I think for myself, thank you everyone for your patience, and we love you, and we know you must love this topic in order to want to ask all these wonderful questions.
Joshua, okay, I really want to thank Joshua, Fabian, and Benson for their valuable feedback really about the insight about data centers. And I just want to write it because I also run other I do data centers. I was a system programmer, all right? And I don't have any mechanical, electrical background, purely software system programming. Now, when I was asked to look at the data center, and I was also asked to look at the business continuity services as a providers, and I realized the importance of data centers. If I don't manage well, the whole business continuity will fail as well. And then with the business continuity background, I realized that I grew a lot of passion. And when I started to run data center, I got no background, I got no knowledge. I can tell you until today, almost 30 years of running data centers, I'm not attended any course. It's all about the passion, it's all about the practical experience, it's all about the on-the-job training that you do. I started with a lot of nightmares, and I swim, and I managed to survive the ocean. I think that's why you learn about data centers. And I'm glad that being a BCP, I got a lot of background about the risk analysis. I told myself, if I'm able to do a regular risk analysis of the data centers every quarter at least, I will be able to have this thing called telltale signs in the data center will fail. And this is what I put in place with my different level of the data center professional, be it the DCFM, be it the data center operation, be it the data center managers. I can tell you, I can actually do sudden surprise visit when I go to a data center. I'll just tell the DC manager guy, let's go for a walk. to surprise visit, really to assess the culture of the data centers. And that's how we train, how we grow. And you realize that if you have done the risk analysis to maintain the data center so well, you will be able to have this thing called work-life balance. Because every level of people now have very confidence that the data center are running operationally well. Again, this is my thought to all of you, all right? And actually, I'm very happy is that once you understand the data centers infrastructure, and now I actually proceed, I don't just run data center operation today. I actually do a lot of risk assessment for data centers, and that helps. The more you analyze, you actually gain a lot of knowledge, especially when you want to design new data centers. All these risk analysis that comes in, whether it's a tier 4, tier 3, or whatever, but anyway, there's no tier 4 data center in Singapore, it's all tier 3. What are the risk analysis that you want to put in place when you design the data centers? That's all I want to wrap it up. So I think really thanks Benson and Fabian for their insight and facilitated by Joshua, who has actually a lot of good experiences. But just to let you know, data centers don't stop here. The landscape is changing. What are the things that the innovative ideas that we need to put in place to make sure that the data centers will always remain resilient so that all our data center professionals will have this thing called work-life balance. Very important. Okay, look at that carefully. Okay, so that's all I need to wrap up. And I really want to, this webinar is actually co-organized by the Singapore Computer Society. That is the Data Center Special Interest Group that I'm actually the chairman. And I would like to encourage you to come into this platform to join us as a member, where we actually arrange a lot of the activities and so on as a platform for all the data center professionals to network together. Okay, now, if you are the SCS members, or you can actually do the scan on the QR code, these are our up and coming events. All right, from, yeah, you can actually just look at it if you're interested, do join us and so on. All right, if not, then I will really want to thank Joshua again, and Fabian and Benson. These are all my good friends, okay, coming together and share all the interesting insight about data center, how does it work in data centers. Okay, Evelyn, Joshua, anything? If not, then we just close up the events.
That's all from me. Thanks.
Yeah, any further questions? I think you're welcome to write to me so I can actually forward these questions to the speakers.
All right, thank you so much, and wishing all of you safe. All right, and have a good week ahead. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joshua,
Thank you.
Fabian, and
Bye.
Benson.
Thank you. Thank you, Joshua, Benson, and Fabian for your time. And you took it.